Welcome to Software Testing Unleashed, the podcast for testers, developers, and all software people who want to create best quality software. My name is Richie. I'm a software quality coach, author, and keynote speaker, and happy to bring you an episode live from the HUSTEF Conference 2025 in Budapest. HUSTEF is one of the greatest conferences I've ever been to. Top quality talks, amazing people, and that unique mix of friendly and intense atmosphere you only find at truly great events. If you have ever get the chance, go there. Seriously, you will love it. My guest today is Vitaly Sharovatov. He is a real quality enthusiast, which you hear now also in this episode. He loves everything around software quality, and today we talked about the economics in software testing. How can we sell testing and quality to our managers, to our C-level, and to our company? And now, enjoy the episode. So, welcome, Vitaly. It's great to have you on the show here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I love that we met at HUSTEF or HUSTEF, whatever it's pronounced properly. And now we're here online. So yeah, life is interesting.
Yes, and it's my fault that we meet again because I had some technical issues and the whole recording from the HUSTEF from our episode was not usable for the public. So I'm very happy that you rejoined here and that you take your time that we can do the recording here for the community, because I think you have a very interesting topic and I think the community will love it when they hear it. It's related to your topic from your HUSTEF talk. It's about the economics and testing. And there, I knew a lot of testers who now say, "Oh my God, economics! I don't go away with this stuff." So, but you want to give us a new mindset there, isn't it?
Yeah, I have a little background story behind this. Why I'm so passionate about bringing the basic economic knowledge and language to testers and QA professionals. I've worked in IT for 24 plus years now, and I worked in many companies as a contractor and as a properly hired person. And I saw in most of the companies that managers and testers and developers almost spoke a different language, even though they both spoke Russian or English or Ukrainian, whatever, like they could understand technically each other. But things about work, like should we test more? Should we test less? Should we release now? Or should we just postpone the release? In most cases, discussions like that were like biased or opinionated. For instance, if a tester has a huge authority in the company, he or she could say, "No, I'm not releasing this." In some cases, managers forced releases. In some cases, managers failed to consider certain risks which testers and developers were highlighting. So it seems that we lack common understanding of why testing is done for the company. Because at the end of the day, managers are incentivized with economical KPIs, OKRs, with economics essentially. And it is very hard to be a manager, and I was a team lead and I was an engineering manager, and it is very hard for a manager to always understand the technicalities of every single decision. So from one side, managers are incentivized to deploy now because they know that their hypothesis, product managers or whoever, hypothesis is that if we deploy this feature now, users will love it, will benefit from it, will bring us love and money. And then the tester says no. So the manager starts perceiving those testers quite often as gatekeepers. And good managers will try to understand the rationale behind certain decisions made by testers. But I would say that most of the managers are far from this state, are far from being really keen on understanding the technical nuances of the decisions. And I've seen testers fighting and quitting and being fired for misunderstandings with the managers, continued misunderstandings. Like, what is he doing, this tester? Why is he stopping us? Or I've seen cases when managers force releases and then bad things happen. For instance, I think everyone remembers Theranos, and everyone like a bad product. It wasn't even tested. And everyone remembers Titan Submersible, which collapsed under the sea and people died. There was no testing at all there. So some managers make strange decisions. And this pain that I see in the industry brought me to be more curious, to become more curious about finding a common language between testers, developers, and managers. And since managers are always incentivized in financial terms, I think that we, as testers and developers, should at least try to understand how to speak this language. Because if we frame our decisions in the economical terms, chances are that either managers will listen better, or in the worst case, you can request them to sign off the risks. Essentially, you can say, here's all the risks, here's what I think our company will pay for this bad release, and it's up to you, dear manager. When it's done in writing, you as a tester can't be fired for this. So it's even adding more to job security for you as a tester if you know how to speak economical terms. And also, go ahead.
Yeah, is this feasible for us as testers? Because the whole software development process and all the stuff we are doing, and test cases, test plans, and the risk mitigation, is this? Can we bring that to numbers so that we can tell about the risks in financial parts and something like that? I think it's a very complex situation for us.
It is indeed, because there is an interesting paradox, I would say, that if QA is done right, there are no incidents on production, or very little incidents. And so essentially, we are paying with efforts and time for things which don't occur, which is very, very strange to do, right? But then again, this is what every single manager, and generally every single person on earth knows what insurance is for. With health insurance, we are paying every month a significant sum of money to cover us in the case of incident, to reduce the negative impact of the incident. So for instance, if I lived in the US and I would have no insurance, and if I break my leg, what's going to happen to me? I'm going to pay a huge bill, right? I'm going to cover a huge bill myself. So every single person on earth and every single manager knows what insurance is and knows what investment is. So the investment is very easy to define. We pay now to get some better future outcomes, essentially. So we as testers cannot guarantee that there are no bugs, that there are no incidents, but we can speak about a model, we can build a model, and we can speak about this model of reducing the harm, reducing the impact, or reducing the probability of something bad happening to our users. And interestingly, in Europe, there are a lot of regulations, right? I mean, testers can start with speaking about regulations. The first risk would be, what happens if we are closed by the government officials? Well, the company goes bust, right? I mean, the whole company stalls. It dies, essentially, in most cases. So these risks are well understood by managers, because they know that essentially no money flow will be there if we fail to comply to the government regulations. So this is a good start. With marketing, we can speak about churn. We can speak about marketability of our product, how much money it costs us to attract new customers, and how many customers quit using our product. And this is another interesting thing. We can speak about the reasons why customers quit using our product. And if we see that, for instance, in 2025, we lost $1 million on because customers stopped using our product, they churned. It means that we could have done something better. And it's not always just features. It might be UX, it might be bugs, it might be customer support tickets hanging there for like months and months. For instance, we at Case have a significant deal of customers coming to us and complaining that with the previous product, they requested some bug to be fixed, and that request was hanging for a year. So see, we can speak about this. We can find comrades. We can unionize, let's say, with marketing, with sales. Sales folks, they have a good understanding what people need. And they also have good understanding what stops people from buying our product and using our product. We can also ask them for the statistics. If you are winning 30% of deals, our deals, dear sales, if you're winning 30% of deals with the clients, what stops you from winning 50% of deals? Maybe that 20% increase could have been done if we improved quality. So you can gather, or for instance, you can talk to customer success and see how much time they're spending on dealing with customer requests, which result in bugs, in bug reports in our system. Again, this is pure time. It's a direct cost, right? I mean, our specialists are spending time on processing requests which result in bug reports. So even this time can be used in our model for calculating what we should do better. And also what's really interesting as well here is that in all the companies, in every single company that I joined, I saw, if you look at the process of software development, software release. So there is development, then there is testing. If people are doing things right, there is testing before development. But anyway, there is development, testing, and deploy. And sometimes, and quite often this happens, features come back from testing to development. And if you speak to any product manager, they will be interested in time to market. They will be interested in how fast, how quickly the feature becomes from an idea becomes a feature usable by clients. So if you gather your Jira stats or whatever you use and see that for every 100 features, we have 50% rate of a feature being brought back to development from testing, you can then calculate how much time it stays, how much money it costs us to redo the feature. So we can gather so much data, we can gather so much statistics, so much financial information. We can ask those departments to bring us this financial information, which could prove to our managers that we need to spend more, or maybe, which I've never seen, we should spend less. I've never seen this.
Yeah, that's so true. I think there are two very interesting points in there. The first one you mentioned that especially ask the customer, why do they not pay? Why do they not buy? Why are they leaving? Why have they a problem with the software? That's such a good feedback, and often companies don't take that. They don't ask what the customer is doing there, they don't measure them, and so on. And I think that's very crucial for the success. And the second part is what I often try to help testers to get into the more overview looking also on processes, on quality of all our stuff, and then they ask me why should I do that? I'm a tester, and but I think the tester has the good skills for doing that because of the critical thinking of the quality, finding bugs skills and this stuff. It's and nobody else is doing that. So I think that's crucial that we as testers also stand up and speak if there is a problem in the process of development or with the incidents from the clients and so on. It's a very important topic, I think. Yeah,
I would agree with this, and I would even stress that testers, by our nature, we have this analytical approach. We are given a test object, a feature, a pull request, whatever. We are given something to analyze. And having worked with the product for quite a while, we know the users better than, I would say, like in most cases, I've seen testers knowing users better than even product managers. Because product managers quite often, not always, but quite often, they live in this imaginary world of fairy tales where every single feature is beautiful, every single feature is so needed by clients, but testers see bug reports every day. They see direct feedback from clients. Customer success sees direct feedback from clients, and testers see direct feedback from clients. And also, when testers work on a product, they have to do regression testing a lot. They have to do exploratory testing a lot. So they are much closer to the real users. They are essentially imitating real users quite often. They have to get into their skins. They have to step into their shoes. They have to understand what it is like to be a user, what it is like to follow the whole process of subscribing, purchasing, using, canceling, whatever. The whole process is very essential. So testers do have to care about the whole product. And I would agree with you here completely. We know how to operate this product in its entirety. And this makes us good candidates to just have an overview. What is happening with the product? I've seen testers who were only specializing on just following testing requirements, like just doing test plans and test cases. I've seen them becoming quite unhappy, because if you are just testing and testing and testing and testing and don't have this overview of what's going on in the product, you might feel like a cog in the machine. And I do not believe that there are many people who like being soulless cogs in the machine, just clicking and clicking and clicking. I think we all strive, well, most of us at least, strive to be proud of our work. Like if I call my mom and I tell her, Mom, we released such a great feature, I can tell her that many clients told me that they liked this feature. And my impact on this feature was like 5%, 3%, 2%. But I tell her, we released it. This is important. This pride makes us happier. And then again, if you don't have this overview, your feedback will not be perceived well. If you're saying you're burned out, what's the common answer to this? Well, manage your work better. Don't burn out, right? And this is our fate. Unless we take action ourselves, and unless we start understanding the incentivization and the motivation behind for managers and developers, unless we start understanding our users and customer support and sales and marketing, we can't really improve things. And redoing our work over and over again is so tiresome.
Yeah. So when we see a tester, he or she hears now this episode and says, okay, yeah, that's so true what Vitaly says, and but I don't know where to start. I have my schedule is full, nobody hears me, and how can I start in a practical way? What's the first step I can do now?
Yeah, there is a very interesting approach. There are actually two approaches to this. A fundamental one would be, it's a little bit idealistic, I would say, would be to come to work and to invite marketing, CS, sales, PR, whoever, managers to a meeting where you discuss what fears they have, each department. How can we quantify those fears into numbers and financial numbers? And then, are we testing enough to reduce those risks? This is the idealistic approach. I've seen it work. I've seen this approach work. The tester was heard, and they added more and more QA measures to reduce the risks they accumulated together. But in many companies, this is not going to happen. Managers will say, Vitaly, like, go work. What do you want from us? Just go test your stuff, right? And so here we should take like little steps, small steps. What I suggest to do first is to analyze your own work for repetitive, wasteful work. So for instance, this works pretty much always, like 99%. If you see that from a developer, Ivan, you get features often in the state that are not testable or are not working, so unsatisfactory state, right? You can pair with this developer. You can ask them how you can help them build it right. They hate you for bringing the feature back to development, pretty much always. So it's in your both interests to synchronize on how they should improve their work, how you can help them improve their work to reduce this waste. If you do it with 1, 2, 3 developers, you see the reduction of repetitive, unnecessary testing efforts and redeveloping efforts. You can then gather the statistics and show it to your QA lead or to anyone who you think will listen to you and get their support to scale those efforts, to find waste in the form of continuous code reviews, like 2 stages or 3 stages of code reviews, or retesting it again and again, or redeveloping the feature because the developer didn't understand the requirements, etc., etc. If you find good stats, if you prove these stats are true, and if you prove that even with man hours, you can just use man hours, not time to market, not cost of delay, not anything, just man hours. You can present to your manager that this quarter you saved yourself so many man hours, your colleague so many man hours. Can we, my dear manager, scale these efforts? Can we see how much direct cost waste we can reduce right now? Just simply synchronizing better. Maybe introducing shift left if we see that developers misunderstand product managers often. Maybe introduce something else, maybe pair programming or pair a tester with the developer so that the automated tests are built at the same time while the developer is working so that you reduce time to market. So start with the direct costs, which are 100% waste, which you know are waste, which you feel are waste. Then you can check Kanban or any queuing theory to see how to optimize the process, how to reduce time to market for features. It is not hard as well. There are measures, quite obvious measures, pairing or mobbing or software teaming, which reduce time to market. Yes, they increase costs, but they reduce time to market. This is your next step. As soon as you gain some authority and some credibility with the manager, reducing the direct wasteful costs, you can then propose more risky actions, risky in the perception of the manager. Because if you just come to a manager and say, instead of separating work into people, let's mob, the manager will say, I'm not paying 7 times for one feature, 7 times more. I'm not going to be doing that. And your arguments that cost of delay will make smaller or time to market will become smaller, they won't work because manager is afraid that his process is at risk. The process that he's used to. So yeah, gain some authority, gain some credibility, gain some experience on reducing wasteful costs first, then introduce more, look where you can introduce better measures. And the next step would be to ask questions to customer support, for instance. How much time, again, same man hours, how much time are you spending on checking that this request maps to an existing bug report? How many cases like that do you have in this quarter? They can tell you 20 man hours. Then you can ask them, dear manager, would you support me in my suggestions to improve the situation? How do you value those 20 man hours? Maybe you're understaffed so significantly that we have churn because you don't have enough time to cover real cases, not repetitive cases, but real cases. And then you start gaining this power. And some people say it's politics. I have mixed feelings about that. I think that we first should strive to be proud of our work. And I believe that as a consequence of that, at least that's how it works for me. When I see inefficiencies, I tremble. I'm like, no, this shouldn't be happening. We should improve it. We should work better. That's like continuous improvement mindset. But this term is so over-marketed now. But again, if you see some bad stuff, you can work towards reducing it. Maybe not now, maybe next quarter, maybe next year, when you gain power, when you become more influential in the company by showing how much money you save. And only when you have proven that you can save money, only then you can introduce new initiatives on investing money in quality assurance.
I think you have that's a very, very useful tips for the people to start one. And you had, I think, one very implicit one inside a bonus tip there too. What I heard when you go to the developer, and you said the developer don't like if you throw back the features. So when you collaborate with them, they also are happy with your new approach, and they will support you in the management team meetings and so on. So you get some people around you who always support these activities then.
Very true. I do not believe that by mere authoritative requests we can improve anything, because we value our work. So I would even say that we have a tendency to have some cost bias when we invest some effort into doing something like building a feature. I mean, every developer had this mistake when they worked on a feature for 2 months. It is a mistake, right? I mean, after 2 months, if you pass a feature testing, it's not going to work. There's like 1% chance it will work from the first step, from the first try. So every single developer who is experienced knows that he needs to pass to testing quite more often. So we have this sunk cost bias or fallacy. When we invest money, invest our effort into building something, and it's enormous, it's like 2 months worth of work, and then the tester brings the feature just demolished, like 20 items in the bullet list. This doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this. We're like, why are you doing this to us? And so if you're just doing that as a tester, yes, it works, but it would be much better if you then sat with this developer and found a win-win scenario, like in the game theory. Win-win always works. If we find something which is to developer satisfaction and to our satisfaction, chances are that our initiatives will work. And the whole reason why I jumped into testing economics is that I believe that this is, well, at least I couldn't find any other way for us to significantly, slowly but significantly improve our life and work at any company. You can quit, of course. You can try to do good things. They might be really good. You can come up with good initiatives. You're not accepted. You're tired, you're not smiling, you propose an initiative, you worked on an initiative for 1 month, you propose it, you get rejection, and you're like, why are they so stupid? I'll quit. It's not good for anyone.
Yeah, that's so true what you say. And I think it's a much healthier way for all the quality stuff in a company than just dealing with the regulatory and we have to. And then I know some companies, they are doing the tests because they are doing the tests as ever they did it. And so there is no thinking about more what can be better, what can be done in another way, what can be automated, which processes are not that good. And that's not a very healthy way to do QA. And I like that approach for more improvement. And I think economics can be the leverage there to gain that. Yeah.
And also, speaking about win-win, when managers report their results, they always report numbers. And there is so much of misuse of metrics. And yet, you could reframe this whole discussion. You could help the manager report good numbers to the upper management. And you could gain good perception from this manager. Manager will value you more because you help them become more valuable in the company. They will always do that. They will not say it was Vitaly who saved the project. They will say I saved the project and Vitaly helped. But even that is so good because they know that Vitaly helped. So it's a win-win scenario. And you're right. There is another problem with testing is that sometimes people just follow best practices, or they follow their way, the way they used to test everything. Like even from company to company, if you hire a person to a startup from a big company, they will say, and where is your design system? Your front end is untestable. Well, no, my front end is testable. It is being tested now with auto tests running all the time. Why do you need a design system? It's just an example, because that tester was using design system with components testing and everything worked for him in that company. But if we think about economics, we have to think about our company. We can't just say we're using this approach because Amazon uses it. No, I mean, we can't. We have to calculate our own money, our risks, our scenario, our people. Like, for instance, I've seen cases when developers were joining the team and they were saying, let's rewrite everything to, let's say, React, and everything was in Angular. A seasoned developer will say, well, where is the economical justification for that? What are you trying to achieve? And yet in testing, I see this quite often. Let's rewrite everything from one framework to another framework. But again, can we propose this in an economical terms? Because again, if we speak about economics, we have to consider even things like, does my colleague know how to program in this new framework? Or will we have to have some onboarding and training for this person? If we speak about economics, we have to think about people a lot. And also, what I hear as a counter argument quite often, that if we think about economics, everything becomes numbers. Well, even UX, bad UX, can be evaluated. Not 100%, of course not. No, there will be always qualitative evaluation. But even bad UX can be tied to a number of people who are churning, for instance. Every marketer knows that. Every single marketer you speak to, they will tell you that bad UX equals churn, higher churn. So if you think as a tester that this feature has bad UX, if you have some authority and good connection to marketing, if you gain this all, you can then use marketing expertise for your qualitative decision making, saying this UX will likely increase churn. Go talk to marketing, dear manager, if you're signing this off.
Yeah, so true, Vitaly. That's so many tips you gave here. I think everyone has now at least one step go on in this journey too. I thank you very much that you joined here this episode. I knew it was worth that you come again and we talk about it, because it's a so valuable information for the community. So thank you very much that you were here, and I hope that we will see in the future. And I want to mention too for the podcast audience that quality that you together with Maria Tulaika have the Beyond Quality community, also a podcast we will mention in the show notes, also that the people can join you too there. That's also a very great initiative you take there. So thank you very much and have a good time.
Thank you so much, Richie. It was a pleasure. Have a good day.
Bye.